just a gentle, relaxing breathing meditation to start, and then we're going to do a longer meditation on impermanence. So in case I forget to say, when we get to the meditation on impermanence here means everything changing, nothing staying exactly as it was. And we just explore the meaning of that for us in our lives. So sitting in some way that's comfortable for you. It's nice if people just find, some people after a while can find a way of sitting that's just really comfortable and they can sit for a long time in that position, because we have a body and a mind. The meditation's an activity of our mind. But if we've got aching back, sore knees, whatever, then our mind is disturbed to those discomforts. So it's just about finding however's comfortable for you. And then within that, having our body more or less upright, not leaning one side or the other, but within the natural curvature of our body, not a rigid way of sitting. Then traditionally, we'd have our hands right on top of the left and the thumbs touching, but that's not always a comfortable way to be sitting. So however's comfortable for you is the most important way, just so your shoulders and your arms and your hands are comfortable. And if you have your arms a little bit away from the sides of your body, it just leaves a little bit of space for the air to circulate and saves heat building up in our body. And so then you can either look down into your lap or a little bit on the floor in front of you, or close your eyes, whichever's comfortable for you. And this is just to stop our mind being distracted to outside things. And then, as much as possible, relax your mouth and your jaw. Don't have your teeth pressed tightly together, but just leave them a little bit apart. And if you have a little smile, that helps relax a lot of the muscles in the lower part of our face. And just let your head tilt a little bit forward. And if at any time you need to move, just change your position gently so as you regain a comfortable position. So there are many distractions to our meditation, some from the outside, some from the inside. But as much as possible, we try and leave them outside, leave them away from our mind, so that our mind can concentrate on the meditation. And so then, to relax our body more deeply, just bring your attention to the very topmost part of your head. And let a sense of relaxation develop up there, so that the very topmost part of your head feels completely relaxed. Then imagine that relaxed feeling travelling slowly down through your forehead, your eyelids, down your cheeks, and check again those jaw muscles. Let that relaxed feeling travel down the sides of your head, back of your head, and also inside your head. Travelling down through your skull into your brain, so that your whole head becomes completely relaxed. Just let that feeling of relaxation penetrate every cell, every tiny particle of your head, and then continue gently down through your neck and your throat, and then flow out across your shoulders, relaxing those big muscles across the shoulders, and then gently travelling all the way down your back so that your whole back becomes completely relaxed. And then let that sense of relaxation travel down through the front part of your body, through your chest, but also inside your chest to those organs inside. Same for your abdomen, relaxing those external muscles, but also the internal organs. Let this relaxed feeling travel down through the upper parts of your legs and your knees, the lower parts of your legs, your ankles and feet, all the way down to your toes. And allow that relaxed feeling to travel from your shoulders down through your upper arms and your elbows, the lower parts of your arms, your wrists, your hands and fingers. Do your best to keep your body as relaxed as you can for the rest of this session. But if you feel tension building up in some part of your body, maybe change your position, consciously relax those muscles. Let your breath flow in and out in its natural rhythm. Not trying to change anything about that, just being aware. Just being aware of that ebb and flow with each breath in and each breath out. So we all had a reason for coming here this afternoon, to gain some information or some benefit. And so we can extend that motivation not just for ourselves, but also that it bring about greater peace and happiness for us in our interactions with others. So then it brings about positive thoughts and feelings for others that we come into contact with. And so now, before we start our meditation on impermanence, if you need to change position, this is a good time. And so the meditation on impermanence is to get a greater understanding of the changeability in our very, very many things that we sometimes think of as being permanent. Buddha taught that all produced things are impermanent and changing, sometimes very subtly, sometimes very obviously. And so produced things isn't just about things made in a factory, it's about our bodies, our minds, plants, all sorts of things. And we'll explore these during this meditation. So initially, just being aware of your body, the many different parts of the body, arms, legs, blood, nerves, muscles. So these different parts have different textures, they're different shapes and sizes. So even though we're sitting very still, there's a lot of movement going on in the body. There's the ebb and flow of the breath, beating of the heart, the flow of the blood, the energy in the nerve impulses. These are gentle ways in which our body's changing all the time. And at a more subtle level, there's the cellular structure of the body. Our body's composed of these living cells moving about, reproducing, dying and disintegrating. The different parts used to reproduce and develop other living cells. And when we consider the body, there are so many changes that are really obvious, from when we are born to when we grow up to our complete height. The different changes that happen through childhood and adolescence. And later on, we go through middle-aged stages and then old age. And these things are true of ourselves and all others. There are subtle changes all the time, and then some of them very obvious to us. Sometimes our body's full of energy, other times it's tired, we need to rest. So now we can turn our attention to our mind. Pardon me. So it too is composed of countless parts. Thoughts and perceptions and feelings, ideas, all of these things flowing along one after the other. Being aware of sounds or all sorts of different things. They come through our mind ceaselessly. So just spend a few moments watching these changing flow of mental experiences. Sometimes in our minds there's creativity, wish to learn, other times boredom, just wanting to switch off. These are changing things, none of it permanent. Sometimes our minds are changed depending on who we're in contact with. If we meet with a friend, this might bring about pleasurable, happy feelings. If we have contact with someone we find difficult, we might have unhappy, painful sensations in our mind. There's the changeability of temperature, cold and heat. Sometimes the extremes of cold or heat can be so severe that we lose our physical strength. Sometimes it's so hot we get burned, sunburned, and we look for ways to cool down. Other times we're so cold that we want to be in the sun to warm us up. So this is another instance of impermanence. So after contemplating our inner world, we can turn to the outer world. Just increase your awareness to include your immediate surroundings. Just picture in your mind the seat that you're sitting on, the walls and the ceilings of this room. The space around you and the different objects in this room. And consider that each of these, though they appear quite solid and static, each one of them is actually a mass of tiny particles whizzing around. Atoms, molecules, tiny little particles that we can't see, changing all the time. So this is considered subtle impermanence, the impermanence that we can't see taking place. But if we think about it, there is this subtle impermanence, this change all the time, just as it happened in our bodies, as we grow, as our baby teeth fall out, etc. So this is true for the houses we live in, for the trees, the streets, the cars, people and animals. At certain times, a particular area might be trees and bushes, and then at another time there might be houses and shops there in that place. And initially the buildings might seem new and clean and tidy, but in time they might become old and dilapidated, people not living there anymore. Sometimes in various parks and gardens, the plants are well kept, the grass and the trees and the flowers all flourish. And then other times they might be neglected and not have enough water due to drought or whatever. This is the impermanence of some things. Some plants only last for a few months or a year. Others last for a very long time, decades. Sometimes mountains are covered with trees and look very lovely in that way, and then sometimes there are landslides or earthquakes and they look very different. Sometimes lakes and rivers are full with lots of water, and other times they're dry. So in this way, none of these things remain the same. They might look like there's always been a mountain there, and maybe there has for all of our lifetime, but the plants on the mountain change, and over time the mountain itself changes. Parts are washed away. And then in our lives, there are many types of things we do. We go to school and learn particular skills. We work in different jobs. Sometimes we like the job and sometimes we don't. Sometimes what starts out as a good job changes and we don't like it anymore. Sometimes we have plenty of food and drink, and other times not so much, or not such the food and drink that we particularly like. The various forms of transport, cars, trains, aeroplanes and such like, when they're new they work very well, but later on they need more maintenance, have to be repaired more often, and eventually most of them don't work at all. This is the same for our clothing and for the ornaments that we might wear. But in time, the clothing, the ornaments, and the person wearing them grow older. This doesn't fit so well. That's not so comfortable. And so for our senses, our eyes, our ears, our tastes, these things, sometimes there are pleasant things to taste and smell and look at, but other times not so much. Sometimes it's the external object has changed, and sometimes it's our internal perception of those things. And even during one day, in the morning, the sun comes up, there's bright sunlight, but then sometimes it gets cloudy like today, even a little bit of rain. Then comes evening, the sun sets. Sometimes there's moonlight that's almost as bright as day. Sometimes no moonlight and it's just dark all night. So this is the impermanence of many things. Most of this impermanence are things that we can't change, even though we might try to. We can't change them to be as we want them to be permanent. And this is true also of various relationships and friendships we might have. When we're born, our parents are with us, other family members. But then as we get older and they get older, some family members die, some move away to different parts of the world. And then we have other families that we might start or friendships that we might have. And some look as though they'll last forever. And some of them do last a lifetime. But sooner or later, they do, one person dies before the other, whatever it might be. There's this ever-changing nature of the various people we come into contact with, the relationships that we have with them. So we can see these changing things, this coarse impermanence that we observe. The subtle impermanence, the moment-to-moment disintegration. We don't see this directly, but eventually, if we live long enough, our hair goes grey, we develop a wrinkle. These are just subtle impermanence, but eventually we do see that gradually our body changes, often in ways as we get older that we'd prefer didn't happen. We see this in ourselves and we see it in others. And so sometimes we see people who are rich and successful in their jobs, but then later on, and they're living an easy life, and then later on, it's found out that they stole something or whatever, then they go to jail. And so this is change of many things change in ways that we might see as obvious or not so obvious. Someone might give us some money, other times we might not have any money. This is just the changeability of things, the impermanence of things. It's the nature of how our lives are. And if we reflect on this changeability, this impermanence, we're not so strongly attached to something being permanent. We can challenge that unrealistic expectation that things will always stay as they are. It's unrealistic and it's self-defeating to cling on to things as though they will never change. Whatever's beautiful and pleasing will change and eventually disappear, so we can't expect it to give us lasting happiness because that thing doesn't last itself. But even if it doesn't change, eventually our minds change and we don't think it's beautiful and pleasing anymore. We want something different. And also whatever's unpleasant, disturbing, it won't last forever either. It might even change for the better. But when we reflect on impermanence in this way, it can help us enjoy the things that we have now, the friendships, whatever it might be, the possessions we have now, without expecting that they will always be there for us. And when they change, we accept this is the impermanence of our bodies, our minds, our possessions, the very earth itself, the sun, the moon, the stars, all impermanent, all changing. And so we can dedicate all the positive energy and whatever insight we might have gained to having a better understanding of the changing nature of our world, and that this deeper understanding brings us contentment and peace to accept the things that we can't change, the things that will change for us, whether we like it or not, and to have more peace and happiness in our minds. And then when you're ready, just slowly open your eyes. So it's 1 minute to 2 if there were people who had to go for some appointment at 2, then not much time left. But if some of you want to just sit in the Gompa, if you enjoy just sitting in the space, if you've got the time and you want to, then that will be fine. I think the Geshes will probably come in and start setting up things, but it's fine to be sitting in the spaces you're sitting at the moment. So thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed today. And for those of you who are staying the weekend, the whole weekend as well. Thank you very much.